Hey, my friends, welcome back to Spot On with Link, Lauren. Happy hump day. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome to the show. We welcome everyone from the left, the right, the middle, all across the political spectrum, as long as you have a sense of humor and you're down for a good time. We have a jam-packed show today. Okay, our show is jam-packed. We have a panel coming on later to discuss some hot topics. We're going to be breaking down Kim Kardashian's 12-year-old daughter. She's really testing the water. She's really testing the waters. We've seen her in some ridiculous outfits that were way inappropriate to be out in public. Things have actually gotten worse. We're going to be breaking down Karine Jean-Pierre, yes, Miss Binder. We're going to break down her horrific, calamitous book tour. Okay, apparently she's left the Democratic Party. This is shocking to me. We're also going to be breaking down some comments Psaki has made, another former press secretary, about our second lady, Usha Vance. We have a host of things to get into, so we're going to pay some bills and be right back. Well, you guys know I'm back to tell you about Vandy Crisps. I don't do any other type of potato chip. I don't do Lay's. I don't do anything else. And let me tell you why I love Vandy Crisps. Vandy Crisp has just 3 ingredients: heirloom potatoes, sea salt, and 100% grass-fed beef tallow, no seed oils. That tallow is loaded with nutrients for your skin, brain, and hormones, and it makes these chips taste unreal. The tallow means you're satisfied without overeating, which makes it the perfect snack. You need to give Vandy a try, so go to vandycrisps.com/link and use code LINK for 25% off your first order. That's vandycrisps.com/link and code LINK for 25% off your first order. Well, we have to start off by crowning Utter Calamity of the Week. Utter Calamity of the Week goes to none other than KJP, our former White House press secretary under Joe Biden, Karine Jean-Pierre. Okay, Jean-Pierre. She's out here on this book tour promoting her new book. It's called Independent. I think this is interesting, right? There's no one who's more of a Democratic shill than Karine Jean-Pierre. So for her to go out there and sell a book called Independent is laughable, okay? And I don't know why anybody is even taking her seriously. Karine Jean-Pierre, she went out there on the podium every single day and tried to gaslight the American people. She basically said Joe Biden was sharp and quick and doing cartwheels in private. She could barely keep up with him. He was running circles around her. So either Karine Jean-Pierre needs to have her eyes and her ears checked, or she also has cognitive issues herself, because we could all see that Joe Biden was in decline. Okay, the Mars rover could see that Joe Biden was in decline. So for Karine Jean-Pierre to go out there every single day and lie, she took an oath of office to the United States. Okay, she worked for us. Our tax dollars paid Karine Jean-Pierre's salary. She did not work for Joe Biden. Okay, she might think, oh, I work for Joe Biden. No, you worked for the American people and you lied to us. So we have a bunch of clips. Here at the Spot On Bureau, we dug up a bunch of clips from her book tour. I want to start off by playing this clip of her on Tim Miller's podcast. Let's take a look.
We did have legislative wins.
Sure,
and
but he didn't talk about them that well, though. He couldn't talk about them. He wasn't campaigning.
No. Wait. First of all, he did talk about them. Whether it broke through or not, he did. Tim, he did talk about.
I mean, he talked way less to the press than Donald Trump does. Way less. And he wasn't out there at all. He wasn't good off the cuff. He wasn't doing press conferences. Let's just be real. Like, he didn't do paid events.
Tim, that's not true. Tim, you're conflating all of it. That's what you're doing.
For her to say that's not true is a joke, okay? There is no one more accessible than President Trump. President Trump will sit there and talk to the press for hours. He will take any question. Things aren't vetted. Joe Biden, he was going out there, okay? He had sheets with pictures of the reporters, with their identity, with their biography, all their background. This guy could not talk off the cuff if you paid him, okay? And we were paying him, okay? Joe Biden, there was reporting that showed that Joe Biden was taking a nap basically in the afternoon, in the mornings. He only worked from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. For her to basically say that's not true. Joe Biden talked to the press all the time. Is she already trying to gaslight us on things that happened last year? Does she think we all have amnesia? I don't have Joe Biden amnesia. Okay, I watched from January of 2021 to January of 2025, Joe Biden go out there and not answer a single question off the cuff. And when he did, it was an absolute disaster. Now we have another clip. We have another clip of her on Gayle King's CBS show. Let's take a look.
The apparent decline of Joe Biden, you said you're a member of the inner circle and you never saw the decline. And after that, I wrote, how?
Yeah. But when we talk about the mental acuity, and again, I take this very, very seriously. Yeah. I never saw anyone who wasn't there. I saw someone who was always engaged.
If she thought Joe Biden was always engaged, like I said, she needs to have her eyes and ears checked. Okay, Joe Biden was wandering off into the bushes. He was stumbling and falling down. We actually put together a montage. Let's look at Joe Biden being sharp and engaged.
The projects. I've been all over the world with you. I've been in and out of.
Now, Karine Jean-Pierre, we know at this point she's a liar, okay? Karine Jean-Pierre, you know you are going out there and lying to the American people when you say you never saw any decline. You thought he could have been president, I guess, till January of 2029. Imagine Karine Jean-Pierre. If we go by Karine Jean-Pierre's way of thinking, she's basically saying Joe Biden was fine. He could have stayed on as president for another 4 years. That is crazy. That is literally crazy. This woman needs to be in a mental asylum if she thinks that is the truth. But Karine Jean-Pierre, she thinks she gets a pass. She thinks she gets a pass, I guess, because she's this LGBT woman of color. And that's what matters the most to the left, right? They don't care about merit. They don't care about the truth. They care about checking boxes. Let's listen to what she said.
How to move forward. And for me, as a Black woman, as a person who's also LGBTQ, I feel as if those communities that I am part of largely get taken for granted. And I see that today in groups that are being thrown under the bus for a short-term win.
No one cares, okay? No one cares about your skin color, who you sleep with, if you're the first French lesbian LGBTQIA R2D2 press secretary. No one gives a rat's ass, okay? All we wanted you to do was go out there and speak the truth and not lie to us. You lied. You looked the American people in the eye at that podium in the James Brady briefing room, and you lied through your teeth, Karine Jean-Pierre. When you said Joe Biden was quick and sharp and running circles around you, you are an embarrassment. And for you to fall back on identity politics is also embarrassing. But that's the biggest difference right now between the left and the right, I believe. The right and many independents in this country, we care about merit. What can you do? What's the content of your character? What do you have in here in your heart? We don't care if you're Black, white, Asian, Hispanic, male, female, green, purple, cyborg, cyclops, okay? Just get shit done, okay? Just get something done. And Karine Jean-Pierre, all you did was lie and lie and lie. And Karine Jean-Pierre, you know, they say all the time lesbians don't like to hang out with gay people. Lesbians don't hang out with gay men. Karine Jean-Pierre clearly doesn't have a lot of gay friends because this new hairstyle is not working, okay? And I'm not, you know, I'm probably not in a huge position to judge people's hairstyles, okay? But I am going to go fashion police, and we have a picture. So Karine Jean-Pierre, she's trying this new hairstyle out. I think she's under the impression, I think in Karine Jean-Pierre's mind, she thinks if she unveils a new hairstyle and she looks different, people will forget that she's that liar who used to carry around that binder full of nothing. Like, she had this huge binder and didn't have any answers for any questions. So people aren't going to forget, okay? You went from Little Orphan Annie to one of the Real Housewives, okay? But we can still tell you're Karine Jean-Pierre under that wig, okay? We can tell. We actually have a clip of Karine Jean-Pierre's hairstylist seeing her in her new appearances.
Oh, Jesus, God almighty.
Okay, obviously we were joking, but I was saying, oh God almighty. She really thinks she's gonna go out there with a new wig and that we're all gonna have new brains, new memories? No, sweetheart. Okay, you can put lipstick on a pig, you can put a wig on KJP, you can put a new wig on Karine Jean-Pierre. We can still tell that you're a liar, but it's clear she's auditioning. It's clear Karine Jean-Pierre is auditioning to be on The View. She's auditioning for an MSNBC contract. She's really going out there and, you know, aiming her invective at President Trump, right? President Trump is eons more effective, way more effective than Joe Biden. Joe Biden didn't get really anything positive done for 4 years, but here she is talking about the authoritarian regime we're living under, apparently.
Right now, in this moment, there's an existential threat. Our democracy is hanging by a thread. Some people would say we're already an authoritarian regime. And I need to see teeth, I need to see fire, and not just me. Many people are worried and concerned.
For Karine Jean-Pierre to sit there and say, I need to see teeth, I need to see fire, when folks on the left are picking up guns and firing at Republicans. Charlie Kirk was just assassinated on September 10th. I know the news cycle moves fast, people. He was just assassinated on September 10th. We've had multiple assassination attempts on President Trump, okay? The guy got his ear nicked, okay? His ear almost blown off in Butler, Pennsylvania on July 13th because some deranged kid, Thomas Crooks, climbed up onto a roof in broad daylight, okay? So shame on you. Shame on you, Karine Jean-Pierre, for going out there and putting this narrative again that you want to see teeth and you want to see fire. Okay, you guys want to tell us to tone down the rhetoric when they're picking up guns and firing at us. And for her to say, for Karine Jean-Pierre to sit there on MSNBC and say that democracy is hanging by a thread. The only thing hanging by a thread is your new wig, okay? Our country is stronger than it's ever been, especially under Joe Biden, okay? You want to talk about threats to democracy? Having a president who is brain dead, non-compos mentis, that was a threat to democracy. Opening the border and allowing a mass invasion of hundreds of thousands of people, that was a threat to democracy, okay? Democracy was hanging by a thread for 4 years under Joe Biden, okay? Having cocaine at the White House, having topless trans people on the lawn flashing, okay? That was threatening to the country and our brand on the world stage. So Karine Jean-Pierre, shame on you. I'm done discussing you, but we'll keep track of your book tour, okay? The calamitous book tour continues, but Karine Jean-Pierre, you need to go back to the drawing board, okay? Because you can put a new wig on, you can put new lipstick on, you can try to do revisionist history. We all know what we saw with Joe Biden. For this next topic, I want to talk about Mother of the Year, Kim Kardashian, okay? I do think she is a great mom in some ways, okay? If you have kids with Kanye West, who in my opinion seems like a Looney Tune, if you have kids with Kanye West, you gotta pick up the slack. So I do think Kim Kardashian is a good mother. Her kids, they're healthy, they're fine. But Northwest, the daughter, the 12-year-old daughter, she is doing what a lot of young girls do when they come of age, right? They want to test things, they want to push the boundaries, they want to play with makeup and nails and hair and all of this stuff. But the difference here is Kim Kardashian is putting her kids out there for public consumption. In Northwest, I want to read you a little bit about this. So Northwest, she has gone viral the last few days for rocking new fake face tattoos, a star under her right eye, her name in cursive on her left cheek. She wore her long blue hair in braids while sporting a black grill over her teeth and a fake septum ring in colored contacts. So here's the thing, right? If she were just a normal kid, okay, she probably wouldn't have access to all of this. She wouldn't probably have hair and makeup artist and probably $1 million worth of jewelry on. But girls across the country, when they turn 12, 13, 14, they do want to try hair, makeup, lipstick, play around in mom's closet. That is fine. Some boys want to play around in mom's closet too, okay? So there are a lot of kids who want to test the waters and push the boundaries. But for Kim Kardashian to put her daughter out there online and to go on the red carpet like Kim Kardashian did recently and say that Northwest is basically going to follow in her footsteps in Hollywood, that gives me concern, right? Hollywood is already a dark, demonic place, okay? Children are not protected in Hollywood. Child actors, they are not protected in Hollywood. So when I see Northwest making such drastic changes to her face, to her hair, she seems like she's searching for identity. Maybe she's searching for a place in the world. Maybe she's searching for mommy's attention because mommy is busy. Mommy is building Skims. Mommy is going to Paris. She's going to fashion shows. Kim Kardashian is very busy. Okay, and these kids probably have nannies, they have security, they have private chefs. So maybe Northwest is doing all this for attention and she's getting that attention on the internet. But no, inherently, there's nothing wrong with wanting to test the boundaries when you're a 12-year-old girl. The difference is the parents should know better. Kim Kardashian knows when she puts her daughter online and allows her to post all of this, grown men are going to be judging, grown women are going to be judging, and you're putting her out there for this public consumption. And recently, Kim got a lot of flack. We talked about it here on Spot On. Kim let Northwest go out there in front of the paparazzi, wearing a corset, push-up bra, long nails, heels. The outfit really looked like a little prostitute outfit. It was not appropriate whatsoever for any 12-year-old girl to be out there traipsing in the street. And Kim Kardashian, she wants to protect her children, but you know that grown men are going to be ogling at your daughter and looking at your daughter even though she's 12 because you put her out there in front of the paparazzi. All in all, I'm not here to denigrate a 12-year-old girl, especially a girl who's trying to grow up and find a sense of normalcy when her mother is Kim Kardashian and her father is Kanye West, right? These kids, they're fighting for their lives to be normal in any way, shape, or form, and maybe this is their version of normal. Maybe I am just some boring person who, grew up in Texas in a conservative environment, and maybe I don't know what's going on in Hollywood. Maybe I don't know what's going on in Hollywood. I'm happy with that. I'm happy with my life here in reality in the world of common sense, but I want to hear from the moms, the grandmas, the dads, the grandpas out there, people who are going to be moms someday and dads. Would you let your 12-year-old go out there and be photographed in a push-up bra and a corset? Would you allow your 12-year-old daughter to go online with all these fake face tattoos and piercings and all this jewelry, really trying to look like a grown-up? For me, I don't think it's appropriate. You guys can say I'm boring and I'm mean, but you know what? I just don't think it's appropriate for this young girl. You have your whole life to grow up. Kids already grow up so fast. You have your whole life to be an adult. Enjoy and relish in being 12 years old. Enjoy and relish in being a kid and being a teenager because you have your whole life, especially in the cesspool, the demonic cesspool of Hollywood. Well, a blast from the past. Another former White House press secretary is out there making the rounds, doing some press. It seems like Karine Jean-Pierre and Psaki, okay, the redhead who would always say circle back. It seems like Miss Binder and Miss Circle Back are in competition this week to be the most insufferable, obnoxious former White House press secretary. So Psaki, she went on the I've Had It podcast with our favorite Jennifer Welch, and here's what she had to say about J.D. Vance and his wife.
I think the little Manchurian candidate, J.D. Vance, wants to be president more than anything else.
Yeah.
I always wonder what's going on in the mind of his wife. Like,
Agreed.
Are you okay? Please blink 4 times.
Yes.
We'll come over here. We'll save you. And that he's willing to do anything to get there. And that your whole iteration you just outlined, I mean, he's scarier in certain ways.
He's smarter.
In some ways. And he's young.
It seems like the new Democratic talking point is to attack J.D. Vance and his wife, Usha. And it's very clear, right? The Democrats, they lay out their playbook very easily. It's like looking at a window that's just been cleaned with Windex, okay? The Democrat Party, they know J.D. Vance is going to be very hard to beat. He will more than likely be the nominee in 2028. So what are they doing? They're trying to attack him with these ad hominem attacks, okay? They're attacking his wife, his family, they're bringing his kids into it. These aren't just policy attacks, they're trying to tear down his character. And a lot of this seems to be coming from women, especially Jennifer Welch, who is sitting there on that podcast. There is nobody more racist and divisive, in my opinion, than Jennifer Welch. She's the one who said that Trump voters shouldn't be able to eat at Mexican restaurants because they voted for Trump, that they had to go and eat at Cracker Barrel. Well, what's wrong with that? I love a good Cracker Barrel, and I like the old logo. But nonetheless, Jennifer Welch, I think this is a perfect podcast for Psaki to go on because they're all ridiculous, insufferable women who have Trump derangement syndrome. But I really also think with Psaki, what it is this, okay? There is an attack on alpha males coming from the left, right? If you're on the left, masculinity is toxic. If a guy tries to explain something, he's mansplaining, right? If a guy sits too comfortably, he's manspreading, okay? That's why you see Barack Obama, he's got body language like this, little beta male, body language. So there's this attack on masculinity, right? Men have been denigrated on the left. There's sort of this feminist movement of like, F men, we don't need men. And I think Psaki is really upset. I think she's upset that she has to go home to her little beta male pussy doughboy husband every single day. And that Usha Vance, she gets to go home to the vice president of the United States, who's a former Marine, who's fit, who knows how to shoot a gun and has ocean blue eyes. I think that's what Psaki is really mad about. I think the reason these women on the left, like Psaki and Karine Jean-Pierre and Jennifer Welch and Kamala Harris, they're all mad. They're all mad about J.D. Vance because they secretly deep down want an alpha male. I think in their heart of hearts, they wish they had an alpha male like J.D. Vance who would protect the home, who knows how to get in the ring and get shit done. Sorry, pardon my French if my mom's Bible study is watching. But nonetheless, I think they really want a man who can go in there and get things done, but they're going and protesting too much. And these attacks on Usha Vance are also very bizarre for another reason. Usha Vance, right? If she were a Democrat and had a D next to her name, They would love her, all right? She's apparently of South Asian descent. She's not white. Her family immigrated here. She is someone that the left would normally love and put on a pedestal, but she committed the worst sin you can as a woman to these sort of feminists, which is being married to a Republican and being a Republican. It's sort of like First Lady Melania Trump, right? First Lady Melania Trump, she's an immigrant. She speaks 5 languages. She's beautiful. She's from Slovenia. She's self-made. If she were a Democrat, they would be putting her on the cover of Vogue every single week, okay? They'd be giving her awards like they give Meghan Markle awards for doing bupkis, okay? I've reached my quota of curse words in this episode. But they give these awards out to all these Democrat women who do absolutely nothing. But Usha, Vance, and Melania Trump are so maligned by women on the left because they happen to be married to Republicans. So y'all go back to the drawing board. Jen Psaki, you can continue to attack J.D. Vance all you want. When the Democrats find a decent candidate for 2028, then we can talk. And the last thing I want to say, we've been covering Jennifer Welch here on the podcast, Jennifer Welch. I just think there's not a more disgusting woman right now in sort of the podcast space. She's a Democratic shill. She pushes their talking points. She attacked a black family for moving into her neighborhood and putting up a MAGA sign because apparently you have to just vote based off of skin color. If you're black, you can't support Trump. Well, I've gotten some emails since our last episode on Jennifer Welch, and I got this email at 6 this morning. Hello, Link. I love you. I think you're great. Just a little bit of tea on Jennifer Welch. She has always been this way and type of person. I went to high school with her and she actually looked exactly the same back then, so her look is natural, not botched. LOL, have fun with that. Oh, and her attitude and personality, same ugly back then as it is now. I've never reached out to anyone about anyone before. That's not my style, so please don't use my name in any type of reference. I like staying in the background, but I can't stand her and her disgusting comments. Keep up your awesome work. So Jennifer Welch's own people don't like her. I've got messages from people in Jennifer Welch's community, okay, telling me what's going on in her home. So I think some of these women need to worry about their side of the street and their homes. It's clear that they're hurting. When they walk in the door at night and they see their husbands, it's clear, in my opinion, they're hurting. There's something wrong going on with you, because for y'all to lash out so much and be worried about everyone else's marriage, you're worried about J.D. Vance's marriage, you're worried about President Trump's marriage, you're hating Republicans, there's something hurting inside of you. So I will pray for all of you women. But Jen Psaki, you're really at the bottom of the barrel scraping. Now, before we go to break and pay some bills, I have to remind you guys that this weekend I will be in Fort Worth, Texas with none other than Megyn Kelly, Glenn Beck, Mark Halperin. We have an all-star lineup, if I do say so myself. You know, I'm very humble, but if you haven't gotten your tickets yet, please go to Ticketmaster and get your tickets for the show. It's going to be a good time, okay? You're going to have like-minded individuals who love this country, who have common sense, coming together under one roof. There are folks driving, of course, from Dallas, Austin, Waco, maybe some of the Branch Davidians are on their way to the show. But no, I hope you guys get your tickets to come and see us. And I will say, I have about 10 tickets left, okay? They gave me a bunch of tickets for friends and family because I'm in the show with Megyn and I'm on her network. But if you cannot afford it and you live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and you definitely want to come to the show, I have about 10 tickets left, okay? If you're a single, if you want to come solo, come have a good time. If you're a couple, reach out to me and we'll put the email up on the screen. Please email link@devilmaycaremedia.com. Reach out to the email on the screen. I have about 10 tickets left. So if financially it's hard for you to swing the tickets with gas and parking, or you're Ubering, you have a lot on your plate and you want to come have a good night, I wish everything could be free to everyone, but that's not the way the world works and it's not my tour. But reach out, okay? Reach out to me and I'll see what I can do. I've got about 10 tickets left. We're going to pay some bills and then be right back. Okay, you guys need to hear about this. Today's show is brought to you by Oxford Natural, the people behind Optimum Day and Optimum Night. These are all natural supplements and thousands of Americans are already using them because they actually work. Here's the deal. Optimum Day gives you clean energy, kills those cravings, and helps with weight loss. Optimum Night, that's your reset button. It calms you down, gets you sleeping deep, and you wake up ready to go again. And the results are insane. Michael Owen, the England soccer legend, he's down 40 pounds. Robbie from AFTV dropped over 100. Linda, a top law exec, she's down 50. Real people, real results. So if you want in, scan the QR code or go to the link below, and if you use the code SPOT, you get 70% off your first order. Yes, 70% off, so don't wait and start your transformation right now with Oxford Natural. Well, my friends, I'm so excited to bring in a panel for this next part of the show. I want to bring in Thomas Corbett-Dillon. He is a former advisor to Prime Minister Boris Johnson, who people say in my comments I actually look like. Some of these trolls online say I look like Boris Johnson, you haters. I also want to bring in Jayme Lee Franklin. She is the founder of the Conservator, which I love, and the host of the new podcast, Sincerely American. So thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm so grateful. I wanted to start off. Okay, I want to start off by talking about the student loan forgiveness situation because there was some news this week. The Trump administration, they reached an agreement with the American Federation of Teachers to approve student debt cancellation for millions of borrowers who continually make their regular payments. So I have sort of conflicting feelings about this, and I want to talk to you guys, okay? I understand there's some folks, they went to college years ago, they have some student loans they've been paying off for 20, 25 years. Maybe they're teachers, they're educators, they're contributing to society. Then I see these kids at like Harvard and Columbia. They take out these massive student loans and then they major in like vocal performance, okay, or queer ethnography. And then they know they're never going to get a job to pay back those bills. And I feel like, why should we as taxpayers pay for you to go to college and take vocal performance? Jayme, I want to start with you and see what you think about this phenomenon.
Yeah, I go back and forth with it too, because I have a lot of empathy for the situation, but there's so many layers to this. Like, one, why are a lot of people take out loans, like for a mortgage, for example? And I feel like if you were going to forgive any loans, like mortgage loans make more sense to me because I think that covers like a wider base of demographics. Like, obviously people who are taking out these student loans are getting like very high levels of education. And so I kind of do think it can be kind of a wealth transfer to the upper class. And then I'm like, can we get the, like Harvard, for example, you have $1 billion something, endowment. Can we get them to pay back some of these students that they've completely ripped off? But that being said, I do love, as a member of Gen Z, as you are as well, Link, I think that the President Trump is really making a play for young people right now. And I do like that he's not this traditional conservative. He is more of that populist, and he really is looking to improve people's lives. And it is just ridiculous, the system that we have in this country. I think we really need to start creating a culture. We encourage trade schools. And like, we don't even have people who know how to build or be electricians anymore. Like, we have a huge shortage in this country. So I have a lot of different angles from it, but I put my trust in the president. And I also love Secretary McMahon. So anything that she's behind, I'm usually for. I just think she's a wonderful person.
I love Linda McMahon. And what I was saying, even with sort of the George Santos commutation and getting him out of prison, I'm like, President Trump is very generous and compassionate and kind, no matter how they try to paint him on the left. So I understand with the student loan forgiveness situation, but I'm glad you brought up Harvard, okay? Because I'm still upset over this. Harvard hired this drag queen named Lahore Vagistan. Yes, that is a real name. Harvard hired a drag queen to teach queer ethnography and root politics. Thomas, if you had a kid, would you ever let them go to Harvard and be indoctrinated by this ridiculousness?
No, and it's so sad because, what a great institution it once was. We pride ourselves on the rivalry between Oxford, Cambridge, and Harvard. It's always those three competing for the top university in the world. Well, we wonder what's going to happen this year. I think Cambridge won last year. I think Harvard is not too high up on there. But, it just shows you, and I think this also comes down to the part of the issues in this country. Obviously, there's a lot of talk about the H-1B visa situation where, there's such a skills shortage. We've got to bring in all these people. And it's like, well, actually, why don't we incentivize some of the courses that, we need people to be studying in? I don't believe this idea that there's no skilled people in this country and you have to import other people. If you can take a 16-year-old boy from the middle of Wisconsin and teach him to run a nuclear submarine, I think we can teach people how to code for Amazon and places like this. So I think we need to start figuring out why big tech are just importing everyone instead of actually, investing in schools. And, there should be an Amazon school of tech in the US. There should be a Facebook school. They should be putting funding into education for the next generation of engineers and software guys instead of just importing them from other places around the world.
No, absolutely. And people say sometimes like, you're an asshole, you're xenophobic, you're racist, because, I just want America to be for Americans for a little bit. Okay, for a little bit, can we just have America be for Americans? And we've gotten those border crossings down to zero. And it's like we imported millions and millions of illegal migrants the last 4 years under Joe Biden. Can we just let our country be for us? I can't go to any other country and walk in willy-nilly, get a job, get free healthcare, free housing, like we had the last 4 years under Joe Biden. But Jayme, I want to go back to something you you brought up, okay, which were trade schools. I have been such a proponent of this. Like, give me a man who can build something with his hands, okay, like a plumber, a carpenter, or an electrician, someone who can screw in a light bulb, change a tire. Is that what you're thinking the future is, Jayme? Kids going to these trade schools instead of these four-year universities?
Yeah, I think, in our generation, we have a huge oversaturation of people getting like marketing degrees and trying to work like the white collar jobs. I think we have an oversaturated market when it comes to like people getting legal degrees. We have just so many lawyers nowadays, and that's the last thing this country needs, to be quite honest, more lawyers. But, I think we do need to bring back the beauty of like these trades. And I hate when people say they're like, no one wants to do these jobs. That's why we have to import a bunch of foreigners. For some reason, for the first like basically 200 years of this country, we could do all of these jobs. And now I just like, you look, I live over in DC, and we have so many beautiful buildings that are so historic from built like 100+ years ago. And the quality is so much higher than what we see in this day and age with the housing developments going up. And I just want to bring back the beauty and art with that. Quick little thing that I have, I'm from San Francisco, the Bay Area. And what's so interesting, the San Francisco, the Golden Gate Bridge was built back in the 30s under FDR. And it took a shorter amount of time and less money, adjusted for inflation, to build the entire bridge than it was to put up suicide nets a few years ago, because of just all of these regulations, and just there's no like art done anymore. Like, our buildings just are so ugly in this day and age. And the last thing I'll say, I love that President Trump signed that executive order to make American government buildings beautiful again, because I think it needs to be a big part of the conservative movement, that we're bringing back beauty and architecture, and that is something we just need to value more in our society.
No, absolutely. I'm glad you brought up some renovations. Okay, President Trump, I think he needs like an HGTV show where he comes in and he renovates everything because he's a builder. I want to get your take on this, Thomas. Are we excited about the new ballroom? We're happy about these renovations, right?
Oh my gosh, are we excited about it? I can't wait. It's going to be so cool. And I love everyone screaming about that he's tearing it down. It's like, no, he's just creating a walkway for you to get to the new ballroom. But I would love to skip, 10 years in the future and see all of these Democrats that are screaming about this ballroom. And I'd love to see how often they're using it for their donor events. Well, are they going to pledge now that if they win the presidency, they will never step foot in this ballroom? Of course they will. They'll be using it because everyone has always wanted a ballroom at the White House. The Clintons obviously wanted one. But I heard that they might be doing a little bit of trolling by naming it the Lewowski Ballroom. So we'll see if they go ahead and do that.
Yeah, I don't know what it's going to be. I think it should be the one big, beautiful ballroom, the OBBB. I think that's what it'll probably end up being like the Donald J. Trump presidential ballroom. Who knows? But I'm so excited for this ballroom. Okay, can't we just have some fun? And they're so upset over the ballroom. Like, you guys, not a single tax dollar is going to this ballroom. What do you make of this outrage over the ballroom? It's so ridiculous. They're so defeated. The left is so defeated, Jayme, that they're now up in arms over a ballroom.
Okay, so one, I love all of his renovations. I love his little Mar-a-Lago rose garden. I love the Joe Biden auto pen. I love the gold editions. Like, I've seen definitely the comparisons between the Oval Offices from Joe Biden to his. I'm a huge fan of that. Like I said, I love making America beautiful again. I want to bring this up, Link. How are people not outraged over the Obama Library? I've been on that X thread. I don't know if you've seen it, Link. It is an atrocity. It looks like a communist, brutalist structure. People were like comparing it to like Phineas and Ferb, that like the villain's building. It literally is a villain-like building. It is an eyesore. It is so ugly. If I lived in that part of Chicago, I'd be so angry with this. So we have President Trump bringing back beauty, tradition, art, and then in comparison, these liberal Democrats are putting up the most god-awful, heinous, communist, brutalist structures, which just totally reflects their ideology. So I have more of an outrage about that.
No, absolutely. And I think this, Obama Library is so perfect and apt for him because it's going to be done late and over budget, which is sort of like his presidency. But I'm glad you actually brought up the Obamas. I want to get Thomas's take first on this. So we have a clip actually of Michelle Obama talking about how she really shouldn't have been at the college she was at, but she got in because of affirmative action. Let's take a look.
I wasn't good on SATs, so all the scores said, you don't belong at Princeton. And there were people who saw me, saw the color of my skin and said, you're aiming too high. And that was my first insecurity of thinking, well, maybe I don't belong here.
So how did you overcome that belief that you don't belong?
I got there and I looked around and went, oh my God, a lot of bright people, but there were a lot of people that were just...
Okay, so Michelle Obama, Joy Reid, so many other high-profile women have come out recently and said, we only got into college because of affirmative action. We should not have been there. And then you have Barack Obama out there who basically looks like a little beta male now. Barack Obama, he was once this sort of like cool, suave, rock star guy. Thomas, what do you make of the Obama brand? It seems like the Obama brand is kind of in the gutter at this point.
Yeah, they're so sort of done. And particularly now, in Virginia, you see he's going out, it was all about, he went out to speak to black men to tell them they've got to vote for a black woman, vote for Kamala Harris. Now in the Virginia governor race, he's out saying, hey, actually, black guys, don't vote for the black woman anymore. You got to vote for this like liberal white woman. So, it's just kind of sad to see how they've fallen. But I really do hate what she's saying in that, because if you read what she's implying is that she's saying is that there were white people at that school that didn't deserve to be there. And I think that's such a horrible thing for her to say, because she has no basis on that. She's just assuming because they are privileged people, they didn't have such a tough background as she did, such a hard life growing up that she did, which obviously she did, and that's fine. But because they didn't have that, it doesn't make them any less than her. And I think it really now plays down, because look at their daughters, two of the most privileged girls in the world, literally called the first daughters. And they, of course, are now going to these schools. And what are they? Because they're privileged, do they not deserve to be there? So I think it's such a horrible argument to make. And I also find it quite entertaining, because I've yet to hear any of these women that said that they got in because of the DEI policies. I haven't seen any of the smart ones coming out. I don't see any founders or any like great leaders saying, actually, I'm going to, it's sort of what wives of presidents and sort of washed up TV hosts. I'm like, where are the great people that got in under this program? I haven't met any of them yet.
No, I am so glad you said that, Thomas. I want to come to Jayme for this next one. It just seems like even the Obama kids, right? Sasha and Malia Obama, they've had every door open for them. I mean, if you are the kids, okay, of Barack and Michelle Obama, every door is open to you. The kids aren't winners, right? Whenever I see Sasha and Malia Obama, they're out there chain smoking in the street and like bra tops and harem pants. So it does go to show you that maybe the Obama brand isn't as great as it was once purported to be, Jayme.
Yeah, and I don't know how it's controversial to say, take race out of it. Like, how are we called racist for saying that? It should be based off your scores, based off your essay, and based off of, if you have an interesting personal background story. I totally get that people want, a diversity of backgrounds in that way, but no, it shouldn't be based off of race. And let me say this as well. I'm glad that we brought up the privilege of the Obamas, because has Michelle Obama ever had a positive thing to say about anything ever? I mean, to me, she only exists now through these clips of her either complaining about her husband, complaining about our country, or complaining about other people that live in our country, and I guess the system being against her. I'm like, and wearing designer outfits while doing this. We voted her husband in twice to be the president of the United States. And I think that's a huge difference between liberals and conservatives. When you hear conservatives talk, for the most part, we're talking in, I think, a positive way. We're very, very grateful for what this country has given us. And we're go-getters and we're ambitious. And that's just such a better message to give, especially to young women, because a lot of women look up to, unfortunately, Michelle. And so it's just so gross to see her once again bitch-ing about another faux problem she has in her life. And I'm like, can you just do something positive for once and say one thing that's nice?
No, I could not agree with you more. Like, Michelle Obama, you were the first lady of the United States, okay? And every time she goes on a podcast, she is bitching and complaining. Sorry if my mom's Bible study is watching, but she's bitching and complaining and moaning about her life. It's like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry you live in a mansion in Martha's Vineyard and got to fly on private jets and planes and live in the White House for 8 years and got nothing but glowing press. Thomas, I will give you the last word. Do you have anything final to say about Barack and Michelle Obama before we move on to the next topic?
Well, also bringing it back to sort of an English angle, this was a man that was, so intent on meddling in foreign politics. He came over and told the British people that if you vote for Brexit, you will be back of the line of any trade deal. Well, what a threat to make to the British people. They can decide how they want to vote for Brexit. And of course, what happened is, his protege Hillary lost and we got President Trump. And of course, now we have a beautiful trade deal. So, I think it really is sort of quite entertaining to watch the downfall of someone who was so horrible to my country.
No, you couldn't have said it better. So this last topic I want to get into, okay? It is about Jimmy Kimmel. So Jimmy Kimmel is back on the air because when you're part of that Democrat elite cabal, you get to fail upward, right? Everybody said he was canceled, he was being censored. He was back 72 hours later. But he's back on his show. He has drag queens coming on to read to young children. And we have a clip of this. I want to show you guys the clip and then get your reaction.
Do I scare any of you?
No.
Really?
You just look amazing.
Oh
Why would that be scary?
That is so affirming. Thank you so much. Would you guys like to read a book by President Trump?
Please.
Whoa, hold up. What about President Trump's least favorite son? Donald Trump is certainly unconventional. He's certainly not politically correct. He also has a heart of gold and is the greatest father a son or daughter could ever have.
Okay, I'm gonna stop you there. Instead of skipping this page, we should skip the entire book.
Okay, so Jayme, I want to come to you first. I imagine those kids were paid child actors. Shame on the parents, right? Nobody has an issue really with drag queens, right? You have Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. I love a good drag queen, but I miss when drag queens would just like dress as Cher or Madonna. But now there's this new push, right? Everything LGBTQ has to be pushed onto young kids, and it seems like this is a deliberate choice. I mean, ABC is owned by Disney. They have massive donors and DEI and ESG. Don't you think this is a very deliberate choice, Jayme?
These Democrats are never beating the groomer allegations, truly. I mean, it's so gross. And, you know, I agree if you link, it's a free country. I grew up outside of San Francisco, the Castro district. I think that's where, if you want to go to a drag queen story hour there as an adult, if that's your thing. Personally, it's not mine. I look at that and I'm like, it's really gross. But this should not be involved with children. And truly, like, I kind of almost, this might be controversial to say, but this feels like a minstrel show for a woman. Like the way that they dress up with the fake big boobs and this over-exaggerated makeup and hair, I'm like, how is this not offensive truly to a lot of women? And I think it's so inappropriate to involve children in this, and it needs to end. Like, truly, I think there needs to be some laws against this. Like, stop doing your weird sexual fantasies with children in front of it. And I feel bad for these kids. I think you're so right. They've been exploited by their parents, and it needs to end.
No, it reminds me of Dylan Mulvaney, right? Who was sort of doing woman face and this sort of impression of a woman. And it's sort of like, oh, the feminist equality movement has gone so far that actually men are going to take the jobs of women now. Men are going to dress as women and then take those gigs in those roles now. But Thomas, it's interesting. I look at some of these polls and you see that LGBT acceptance has dipped a little bit. And I think part of the problem is now they're pushing a lot more men and women's sports, something they never did before. There's a lot more LGBT crap being pushed onto young kids. That's when people put their backs up against the wall and say, whoa, 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 whoa. We had no problem with gay marriage, love who you love, but now we have a problem. Don't you see that too, Thomas, or what do you think?
Yeah, I do. And I think you can easily trace this back to an organization called the Human Rights Campaign, which is based in DC with this huge skyscraper. And they did such great work in pushing for gay marriage to get approved in this country. You know, they put out a lot of work and they really presented a good argument. And then they won. And it's the classic case of a charity. You know, the worst thing for cancer research to do is to cure cancer. The worst thing that happened to them is that they got gay rights. So all of a sudden they had this panic where it was like, well, what do we do now? Do we shut down this multi-million-dollar organization and leave our big skyscraper in DC and fire all our stuff? No. What should we do? Let's move on to trans issues. And that's exactly what has happened. And this is being pushed by so many people in this group because it raises money. They can still do their events. They can do these big swanky, black tie events in LA and New York and raise money for it. So I think it really is sad that gay people have been caught up in this whole trans agenda. And also, I think if you go back to the Jimmy Kimmel thing with Trixie Mattel, who, is actually kind of funny. I've seen some of her clips. She's quite entertaining. Or he, I don't know what you call him. But, what it actually is sad is that it seems that the only way he could get onto Jimmy Kimmel was if he allowed himself to be used as a pawn in this, indoctrination class. I mean, there's no way. He's a smart guy. There's no way he would think, I want to go on TV and lead a story hour with these children. That's obviously bad, but he wanted to get on Jimmy Kimmel. So, and I think also it's so awful because you can almost picture behind the scenes these parents just foaming at the mouth that their daughter is so indoctrinated that she's spitting out the, the word of even the mention of President Trump, they all recoiled. These liberal parents, talk about indoctrination. Those children are so indoctrinated to have this fear of the president that it was actually quite sad to see, the girl at the back who was like, I'm going to stop you. They're like, what is this? It's awful. So I think the whole thing is sad, and I do think it actually seems to be wrapping up. I don't know if you saw the polls or the the report that trans identity is like plummeted. Like all the kids now are like, yeah, that's not a thing anymore. So I think hopefully it's over, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
No, we'll have to see what happens. I think it is true that Gay Inc., they're looking for some new way to play the victim card, like the Human Rights Campaign, all of these nonprofits, and I use the word nonprofit loosely. They got gay marriage in 2015 with the Obergefell decision with the Supreme Court. So now they have to find something new. Like that was their mission for decades. We want gay marriage. We want gay marriage. Now they have to find a new grift and a new way to play the victim card. But Jayme, aren't you tired of it? Because even some of these trans people, they say trans rights are under attack in this country. No, you don't have a right to just identify as a woman and have carte blanche and entree into women's sports, women's locker rooms, women's spaces.
Well, what happened in this country too is we went from tolerance, and I think tolerance is a virtue that I think it's important in a country that has obviously a very diverse population and that we are a free country to have tolerance for other people's way of lives that might be different than yourself. So we went from tolerance to acceptance to now forced celebration, which is why you see on my street where I live that every June it's covered with pride flags, and I have to make sure to bring my own child around the block while a pride parade is happening because there's so much nudity. And I love that Thomas brought up the Human Rights Campaign, because I will say this, the Human Rights Campaign makes no sense, because if you're a Christian, like many people in the conservative movement, we believe that our rights come from God. So we believe in our Constitution that it is endowed by thy creator. I don't know where their human rights come from. Why do you have a right to be a woman? Like, where can you tell me where that right comes from? So when they are having this debate about rights, it doesn't really make any sense. Like, I'm like, where is this from besides the government? And I feel bad for a lot of gay people that are being trapped into this LGBTQ altogether, because being gay is very different than being a man who's now saying that you're a woman. Being gay is a real thing. That's a legitimate thing that exists. A man trying to become a woman, you can't become a woman. No matter what surgery you do, we all know this, you're never going to be a woman. And so I'm so sick of playing into this delusion. It's a mental illness, to be quite honest. And it's not something that we should be celebrating at all. And especially with kids involved and out in public. And a whole month link to celebrate LGBTQ. Like, how about we give veterans an entire month? It's just ridiculous. And I think there's a huge backlash to it. And I hope that, a lot of the gay people don't get caught up into this huge backlash that's now occurring in our society.
Absolutely. Okay, last word, Thomas. What do you think about this push to move LGB away from the T? Because trans folks, they say that who you love has nothing to do with your gender identity. So maybe there is a reason to sort of separate. What do you think about this new sort of argument forming online?
Yeah, I think it's definitely seems to be among sort of sensible gay people, that seems to be the way that everyone's going, because they see the damage that's being done. And I think any gay person sees a man in a wig walking into a woman's restroom is going to be like, what are you doing? Like, come on, like, it's so ridiculous. But, talking about the Human Rights Campaign, as you said, yeah, they needed to find something else to do. Well, I'm like, well, how about, these internationalists, they love the world. How about we go and start campaigning for rights in, some Islamic countries or Iran or Pakistan or even India? How about we go and do that? But no, they had to shift to trans in America because there's a lot more money to be raised in the United States than going out and trying to defend the rights of gays around the world. So I do think you're seeing a big divide between the so-called community, even though I don't ever think there was. Gay men and lesbians struggle to have anything in common. And then all of a sudden we're supposed to have, they're going to be best friends with these men in wigs. I think that was such a artificial push that happened. And hopefully you're seeing it really taper off now. And it seemed to be this huge rise. It seemed to be young women identifying as trans, because it sort of was like the new goth. It was like, what's the latest trend now? It's like, oh, I'm a 13-year-old girl at school and I'm not in with the cool kids, so now I'm going to be trans. And I think now people are realizing actually, like, it's not a thing. But the more dangerous part about it is that there was no doctors in the goth era saying, right, well, let's make you have eyeliner for life, whereas these scary doctors were coming in and cutting things off of children. And that is what made this whole movement really quite dark. So hopefully we're going to start seeing the end of this. I think, yeah, separate the two. There's nothing in common.
No, perfect way to end. Common sense is back. I'm so happy common sense is back. That's what really moved me to the Republican Party, is because the Republican Party became the party of common sense, and the Democrats were going crazy, 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 like the birds outside my window, if you can hear them. But I want to thank you guys so much for coming on. I'm so, so, so grateful. Everyone, go follow Thomas at T Corbett-Dillon. Go follow Jayme Lee Franklin and subscribe to the Sincerely American podcast. And 30 seconds, okay, Jayme, pitch why people should check out your podcast, because it's new, it's hot. Tell us real quick before we go.
Thank you, Link. So Call Her Daddy is the #1 podcast right now in America for women. And if we look, men, they're watching Joe Rogan, Tucker Carlson, they're watching even Megyn Kelly. And so there's nothing that I think really exists specifically tailored towards Gen Z women. And I really think we need to start addressing issues of dating, relationship, culture, fashion, beauty within the conservative movement. And I think that's how we're going to get more and more people over onto our side. So we want girls that, yeah, obviously love President Trump and are hardcore conservatives, but we also want girls that are just sick of the woke insanity, and they're like, Vogue is gross now, Elle magazine is gross. I don't want to listen to this raunchy sex podcast that's all about feminist toxicity. So come on over and check us out, because we're talking common sense and we have a lot of fun. We don't take ourselves too seriously over there, and we just talk about the funniest topics. It's kind of a little break from politics for me, because I do a lot of political commentary.
No, you definitely do. Thank you guys so much. Have an amazing rest of your week, and I will see you soon. We have to have you come back soon. Thank you. Let's talk about what's cooking in your kitchen. Those ultra-processed canola oils, they're industrial byproducts once unfit for human consumption, even used as worship lubricants. Big food companies sold us on seed oils being healthier alternatives to the natural animal fats our grandparents used. Enter Golden Age fats. Their 100% American-made grass-fed beef tallow brings back that classic, wholesome taste. It makes chicken, steak, eggs, or roasted veggies absolutely killer. Loaded with vitamins, minerals, and healthy fatty acids, its high smoke point works for any recipe. It's clean, no additives, no preservatives, just pure Midwest tallow from grass-fed cows. If you're ready to go back to the basics, give Golden Age beef tallow a try. Go to goldenagefats.com/link and use code LINK for 25% off your first order. That's goldenagefats.com/link, code LINK for 25% off your first order. Well, that concludes this episode of Spot On with Link Lauren. I'm so grateful to all of you for tuning in. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for supporting the podcast, for sharing it. You guys send it, you text it around, you email it, you Facebook it, you tweet it, you twat it, you do everything with the show. And for that, I'm grateful. I also have to reiterate, like I did in the last episode, because I read all your comments. I love all the grandmas and the grandpas and the moms who tune in, the people in their 70s and 80s and 90s. Y'all are my people. Okay, I'd rather come hang out with my 80-year-olds sometimes than the 18-year-olds, if I'm going to be honest. So I love you all. Thank you, thank you, thank you for tuning in, and thank you for sharing the show. I will see you on the next one. Bye.